So what we have here was an execution in progress of a plan to take a shipping container and make it energy efficient and into a studio space. And one of the things, of course, is you have to frame in a wall, and you have to try to keep the heat, which is one of the problems with shipping containers. They get very hot in the sun, and put a radiant barrier in to keep that heat out. Also, we wanted to use up a lot of old materials that we had from the previous tornado teardown. Our home was torn down in 2011, so we've got all this wood, and so all of the lumber in here is very old. We have a new door and a new window, but otherwise, all of this is sort of salvage materials. The walls, this outer wall, has this very few studs in the wall, just enough to support the window, and radiant barrier sheathing on the outside of the studs, furring strips, and then we have this fiber cement panel made by Nichiha that actually brings this out to the front edge of this window. As we come in, now of course we've already attached some reused foam that we picked up for $16 a sheet, and it's polyisocyanurate with sort of a cardboard fiberglass mat. These are actually not screwed onto here because we're going to be coming back with plywood, which we can see on the ceiling there, our first piece of plywood. We're going to use 1/2-inch plywood and 3-inch screws with a large head, and those screws are going to hold the plywood and the foam to the studs. And so that's going to create our interior work surface for the shop. My wife and I were potters, and back in the late 70s, early 80s, we decided to try spraying some glazes onto our pots. And so I commissioned and got a local sheet metal man to put this together for us. So the next thing is going to be to bring this out some. We're going to bring this in with 2x6s like this, so that our air, when it's coming in, is going to flow in from these edges and into the back. And we will go back in and cut holes, or a hole that is large enough to kind of match the square inches that we have here in this opening on the back, that will allow fresh air to come in. That's sort of our last ditch effort to catch any little paint solids. Again, we're just using scraps. When these filters, it comes in a 30-foot roll, and you just cut off how much you need. It's pretty economical. It's about $60 delivered. We have top right. There's it up here. That. You can see it just pulls that right in there. We had to construct a box that we could get the air from our vent system. Our fan is mounted on the floor inside. We will connect that down, and that will give us a nice airway to blow the air out away from the container. So now we can just attach this in place. So we have that nice curve. Line it up. Slide it into place. Drop it. And that'll let us pull air in here through a hose that we're going to fasten over this. So we finally got the interior finished in the vent hood itself. And of course we've got some little air blades that we can pull out to adjust where the air comes in from the sides over here. And they're not fancy, they're just in a little groove track. But the air that comes in here, you know, maybe that he needs to narrow this up or make it more open. We had to shallow it up a little bit by putting in this filter, because what we wanted was a two-stage filter. We wanted this paper filter that offsets, that will catch most of the solids, and then fiberglass filters behind that, and then it goes right into the pipe and goes outside. We've got the variable speed fan control, which turns on the, here it's not that noisy. This line is actually, was going to be for the compressor, which we were going to have mounted inside, and we decided it makes more sense to put that loud big compressor outside, and so we ran the line down through the floor, and we're building a little structure outside to go over with a little roof over it for the compressor out there. Now for the real test, James is going to give it its first road test using the airbrush on one of the figures here to see how well it draws. All right, here we go.
Wow, I don't smell nothing. This is working great. It's pulling great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I barely even need this thing. This is awesome. Well, I can do some more work on this later and tighten it up and make it look better, but it works. Everything works. Great job.